Do you know that in Egypt, dozens of people lose their lives or limbs to obtain limestone? They face mountains of hunting, white dust, and incredibly sharp machines to make a living. Some jobs expose you to considerable danger, and you could end up burned to a crisp, horribly maimed, or tortured to death. Here are the most dangerous jobs on the planet, so please don't be afraid to take them. If you're young, broke, and not afraid of being mauled by a lion or a Siberian tiger, this dream job is for you. You'll be the new zookeeper, a highly coveted job, but one that doesn't guarantee you a decent salary or any kind of hazard pay. You could very well end up between the fangs of a Nile crocodile, and on top of that, you are sure to get no pension. So, do you still want to work with animals? Are you ready to face crawling insects with hairy bodies and excruciatingly painful, even deadly bites? How about applying for the job of entomologist? But be careful. You must have a good heart, because there's no lack of tarantulas, scorpions, or other terrifying scolopendras in this job. And many entomologists have ended up 6 feet under because of a bad encounter. The job of a garbage collector seems very easy, since it is enough to collect garbage placed in a container and to transport it to the nearest dump. However, it's not that easy because you never know what's hidden in the thousands of tons of waste produced almost daily by a medium-sized city. Professional divers do not dive for pleasure or to admire coral reefs or exotic fish. Their daily life is made of cleaning the hulls of ships or maintaining the metallic foundations of oil platforms. Risk is omnipresent and can take many forms. A sharp and rusty metal bar, for example, or a huge hungry white shark. Working in a diamond or emerald mine may seem very exciting, but it is an extremely dangerous job. Beside collapses and explosions, miners can also suffocate from carbon monoxide or methane gas. Chinese coal mines are considered the most dangerous in the world. In 2002, 6,995 miners died in that year alone. Even today, it is estimated that at least 7 miners die every day in a Chinese mine. Oh, here's the delivery truck that finally arrived at the right place. You can see that the truck is still smoking from such a long trip, but the condition of the poor truck driver is even more worrying. The truck driver's job is indeed one of the most tiring and dangerous job there is. They have to face many perils hidden in the road, knowing that the slightest inattention on their part can quickly lead to road carnage. For a window washer, nothing is easier than to swing a few hundred meters above the void, while frantically scraping the huge windows of skyscrapers. But even if this job has become much less dangerous in the last few years, we still don't count the deaths, because at the slightest gust of wind, a problem quickly arises. The military units of the Special Forces are sometimes recognizable with their famous green or red berets, but also by their scars and their patient faces. These elite soldiers have a rather prestigious reputation, but their daily life is literally playing with death. For it is necessary to know that the field of operation of these soldiers is almost always behind the enemy lines, and if they are captured, it is torture and death which awaits them, as well as other abominations. If you think that working as a bricklayer or construction worker is a good job with a good pay, think again. The dangers associated with the construction industry are certain and range from falling from great heights to fatal injuries from work tools or construction equipment. Roofers are exposed to one of the greatest risks of their trade, a fall that could prove fatal, or that could paralyze them for life. These poor devils who have the heavy task of repairing our roofs and tiles are never safe from a slip, especially when it's raining or blowing a little too hard. Scuba diving is a very popular activity for tourists, but what about those who practice it as a profession? Especially if they have to dive to take pictures of great white sharks in their natural environment and without any protection. You can be sure that unfortunately some of them will end their life inside the stomach of a hungry shark. We have seen that some photographers risk their lives by taking selfies with sharks. But what about those who immortalize avalanches as close as possible to the impact zone? These image professionals are indeed real daredevils and are ready to put their lives in danger to take the best shot, at the risk, of course, of ending up completely crushed by thousands of cubic meters of snow. We all dreamed of becoming a fighter pilot when we were kids, but what you don't know is that the unfortunate fighter pilots are confronted to a lot of dangers, whose lethality threshold is the highest of all aviators. So if you don't want to end up in pieces because of an air-to-ground missile or a simple calibration defect of your aircraft, you'd better fly motorized hang gliders. There are many other hazards in a firefighter's job. In addition to fire and fires, firefighters must also deal with the risk of smoke and carbon monoxide poisoning. Firefighters are also at risk of long-term occupational diseases, such as lung or esophageal cancer, as a direct consequence of inhaling black smoke from the fires they put out. Welding work is already very hard when it takes place on land. Imagine then having to perform this hard work at a few tens of meters deep under an often raging ocean. It is a job that is very well paid financially, but you should know that it is also one of the most dangerous. The welder puts his life at stake at every moment because the risks of an explosion, an electric shock, or a sudden depressurization is never far away. If the job of a firefighter is already one of the most dangerous that exists, the job of a parachute firefighter is probably even more dangerous. They are indeed directly parachuted literally above the flames, and must risk their life to manage to control and to extinguish fires so violent and so nourished that they are able to create infernal storms. Gendarmes and other peacekeepers are confronted every day with a multitude of dangers, which can take on all aspects, because contrary to the military, who are only really active in times of war or serious troubles, the cops have to be on the alert all the time, never let go of their attention. They would otherwise risk to be shot or to be attacked by a vicious knife, because criminals are unfortunately not idle, and they never take vacations too. You may think that being a house painter will only expose you to paint splatters, but that's not true, because you could be brought to paint in height, suspended bridges for example, and there the border between life and death is considerably restricted. Do you see yourself having a good paint job suspended at a dizzying height, or at the slightest mistake you can't crash down? Does anyone have a network in this crappy place? This is the usual question you probably ask yourself when your smartphone is not receiving a signal. But the poor technician who has to maintain the antennas doesn't really have time to think about his smartphone. Suspended above the void at a dizzying altitude, he must remain totally focused on his work, at a risk of a fatal fall, of course. Between 2003 and 2013, more than 1,100 oil rig workers died in work-related accidents. This makes the job of an oil and gas driller one of the most dangerous on the planet. Although in compensation, it is also one of the best paid. But money will certainly not buy you a second life, nor will it replace any of the limbs you may have lost while doing this ultra-dangerous job. Being a bodyguard is a job that cannot be improvised, and it is not enough to be tall and strong to be able to do it. It is a very hard and demanding job, although it is very well paid and has many other material advantages. But you should know that your life is literally not yours anymore, because you're supposed to stand between death and your client. In addition to being paid by the slingshot, the poor prison guards risk being attacked every day by murderers and other ultra-violent rapists incarcerated in their prison. Most prisons are in fact plagued by gang violence, whose retaliation can affect prison guards even outside the walls, thanks to accomplices at large who might attack them right at home. We couldn't make a list of the most dangerous jobs in the world without telling you about the job of a stuntman. True daredevils of the cinema. It is thanks to these stuntmen that we can see spectacular scenes in our films. But this job often exposes them to injuries that can be fatal, with a salary of a few $1,000s and their name appearing in the credits at the end. What job is more stressful than that of a bomb disposal expert? Because defusing an explosive may seem easy in the movies, where you just have to cut some wires and that's it. But the reality is much more complicated, since you are exposed to an accidental explosion at the slightest mistake. Storm chasers are a special breed, since they don't know the meaning of the word caution, or they seem to ignore it knowingly. Instead of taking cover from a hurricane, as any normal person would do, they prefer to expose themselves to the storm in order to capture stunning images, often at the risk of their lives. For those who complain about their office job, how about a change of scenery and collecting sulfur at the top of an active volcano? You'll be carrying 70 kilograms loads on your shoulders, while breathing in the deadly fumes from the volcano's vent. Icefall doctors are probably the most endangered workers of all, as they have to operate in horribly difficult conditions. This job consists in tracing roads in the middle of snowy Himalayan mountains and marking crevasses on maps, all the while trying to protect themselves from cold and landslides. Look at all the risks this man is taking. He is balancing on a rattan ladder several meters above the ground. He could fall at any moment and say goodbye to life. What he is trying to collect must surely be very valuable then. Is it gold? Emeralds? No! This man is taking all the risks to collect birds' nests, where these nests are consumed in any kind of soup that is highly priced. The job of a sewer in the West is already a dangerous job, but sewer in India or Pakistan, it is much worse. There, people have to literally dive into the sewers to unclog them with their bare hands, while wading in the wastewater full of excrement and other even more disgusting things. Imagine a job where you can hardly see anything because of the dust. You don't have any protective equipment. You can't hear much because of the impressive noise. And at the same time, you have to constantly move away at the right time to avoid big machines that are coming at you at full speed and that are able to cut you in half at any moment.